Trapped. Chapter 14. I'll say this about the folks who run the cafeteria. Old blue-haired lady as they may be, but they know how to buy in bulk. It gave me a weird thrill to hop over the counter. How many days had I spent slowly sliding my tray along that railing, waiting for the globs of psycho food, pseudo food, and then sliding it all up to the register to pay. Jason, Les, and I hopped over the little flat surface next to that register, between the end of the railing and the wall. We were like the people hopping subway turnstiles in the movies. Pete reached down and flicked a latch. Then he lifted the counter up and back. Guys, he said, it opens. He walked through, followed by the girls and Elijah. Pete was missing the point. I'd flipped the thing back down just so I could hop it again on the way out. Once we were back in the kitchen area, we started knocking around in the cupboards. The light was a little better back here. The big windows at the back were tall enough that their tops still weren't buried. In fact, everything in here was sort of larger than life. It was like a giant's kitchen. The windows were huge and the cupboards were big metal squares located under countertops that ran almost the entire length of the walls. They had those long metal handles, the ones where you pull on the narrow end and the doors pop open, almost like they're vacuum sealed. I was trying to think where I'd seen handles like that before, and then I remembered. Those were the kind of handles they had in the coroner's office in crime shows. You know, for the little compartments where they kept the bodies. In fact, the metal doors under the counter looked like those metal doors. I guess they serve the same purpose, keeping things preserved. It's people, I said, popping one open. The others laughed, and then they laughed louder when I pulled out an enormous can of peaches. It was probably like 2 gallons of canned peaches, and it was really heavy. The brain, I said as I thumped it down on the counter. What is that? Said Jason. Peaches and syrup, I said, reading the label. Oh man, I love those, said Jason. I laughed, but it turned out he wasn't joking. He really liked canned peaches. It took us forever to find a can opener, and when we did, we felt like morons. It had been right in front of us the whole time. It wasn't like the little openers we had at home. It was this big crank wheel thing, bolted to the corner of the countertop. You put the can under it and then swung the handle around. We just figured this out, and Jason was maneuvering the can into position when Julie found the refrigerator. It was a walk-in, as big as a small room. Check it out, she said, and we all swung around to look. She popped the big handle and pulled open the heavy door. It was pitch dark in there, but we all knew what it was. Les walked in and came back out with a white plastic bucket. He put it down and popped the top. Peanut butter. Sweet, he said. And we all gathered round and looked at it like we'd never seen the stuff before. He stuck his thumb in, scooped some out, and licked it off. Gross, said Julie. Just don't stick it back in there, I said. I said it with a little laugh because it was obvious, because one, it was obvious. That's what she said line. It wasn't obvious that's what she said line. And two, if Les thought it was an order, he'd cram his whole hand in there. As it was, he just glanced over at me and went back into the dark mouth of the refrigerator. We heard him knocking around back in there, and when he came back out, he had two long plastic sleeves under his arm. It seemed weird to keep sliced bread in the refrigerator, but I guess when you buy it by the ton, it keeps longer that way. Pete took his turn in the fridge next. It took him forever to find the jelly, even with his flashlight, but eventually he returned with a huge jar of it. The label was white with big black text that read, "Artificial grape jelly product." It looked like something from the military, totally genetic. "Should we close the door?" said Julie. "What's the hurry?" said Les. "You know, so stuff doesn't go bad." "It's not exactly a heat wave out here," said Pete. I pushed out some breath, but didn't see it. "It's warmer than in there," I said. "Yeah, okay," said Pete. "But go bad? Just how long do you think we're going to be here?" "I don't know," I said, "but it's still coming down. Could be another day." Understatement of the decade. Pete shrugged, accepting it as a possibility, but said, "Nothing goes bad in a day." Milk," I said lamely. Even as my mouth was moving, I wondered how I'd become this lame nanny man in less than 24 hours. I swear I used to be cooler. Earlier, I'd been worried about what would happen when the teachers came back. Now I was worrying about what would happen when they didn't. The only difference I could see between them and now was that the snow still hadn't stopped falling. "Milk," echoed Jason, letting me off the hook. I guess I'd always been kind of a worrier, and now I had something real to worry about. Something more than whether or not I was going to get a varsity letter. "Yeah, Milk," said Les, turning and going back into the walk-in. And so that was our first meal in the school. Peanut butter and genetic jelly sandwiches with little half pints of milk, regular or chocolate, and syrupy peaches straight from the can. We ate in the hallway by the semi-working heating net.